Hey guys, Mr. Schreiber here. I wanted to show you just a video of how I go about solving these problems in class and some things I'm looking for. And we're going to get right into it. So we have 7x minus 10 plus 6. For this problem, what I always preach is whenever you have a minus sign, especially when you have combining like terms, we're going to change this to plus and negative. And that's going to be able to see this a little bit better. That's going to be a negative 10 plus 6. When we add that together, a negative 10 plus 6, the negative is going to overtake the positive. 10 minus 6 is 4, and we're going to keep that negative. Be 7x minus 4. Now, again, if students want to keep it like this is perfectly fine. I do teach in the classroom that when you have a negative, it's the same thing. Plus a negative 4 is the same thing as just a minus 4, and this looks a little bit cleaner. For the second one, we have 9 minus 3, and in parentheses we have 7n plus 3. The very first thing we're going to do is we're going to make this plus a negative. Big thing a lot of students forget is that one, we're not going to add this or subtract this here because order of operations says we have to multiply before we add or subtract. We're going to multiply first. Big thing I always want to see every single time is I love to see arrows that it's going to both. We always preach that in class. So we have 9 plus, and then here I do want to see some mental math. So that negative 3 times that 7n is going to give you negative 21n. Always keep that in parentheses, plus. Keep that plus sign. Negative 3 times the 3 is a negative 9. Now, if these are fractions, and if these are, the 9 and the negative 9 are fractions, and if they are fractions that don't have common denominators, I do want students to regroup, absolutely. But if they are just integers, what I want kids to do is I want them to box in like terms. And when I say box in, I always want them to keep the plus and the negative here. So we know that's 9 plus a negative 9, which is going to cancel out and make 0. So we're going to have a negative 21n. Now, can students take the negative 3 and show that it's a negative 3 times 7n plus negative 3 times 3? That's perfectly fine as well. We mostly do not teach that, and the reason is because when we go to higher level problems, and I'll show you an example of one real quick, where it can kind of just muddy up your work a little bit and kind of create too much work in the middle to be able to understand. Combining like terms, putting like terms together, and then cross-canceling or just canceling here to get a negative 21n. And that's perfectly fine too. When we get to problems like this, the reason why we do like to see some mental math on this is because when we have larger problems that students have to complete, and I'll kind of show you the example of how I would solve this one. When we have a negative 2 here, 5x minus 6, I'm going to always make that plus a negative. That is a negative 3. We're going to make that plus a negative. And then this minus 5 is the same thing as plus a negative 5. And always want to have kids show the arrows that negative 2 is going to both and that negative 3. So if we have kids show the negative 2 going to both, it does kind of muddy up their work a little bit, and we do want to have some number sense where kids are multiplying these numbers, and they know off the bat that a negative 2 times 5x would be a negative 10x. Negative 2 times the 6 is going to be a 12. Keep your plus sign, plus. Negative 3 times 3x is going to be, and I always like to keep this in parentheses so we don't just forget that it's a, just a little tick mark here. It's definitely a negative 9. And then the negative 3 times the negative 5 is going to be a positive 15. And again, if these are integers, if it's not fractions, I don't mind. I do apologize for my mouse work. My mouse work is not great to box in like terms. I always like to keep that plus 2, that plus a negative 9. I think it helps to see a little bit better that this is a negative 10x plus a negative 9. If they're both negative, we can just add the absolute values and tack on the negative. And then we have the 12 plus the 15. I also find that if you don't box this in, it also kind of just helps to see it better. The plus 12 plus the 15 would just be a 27. Circle.